Gina Versa on another episode of the Waffle Press podcast. Forewarning before we start this one, it's kind of a spur of the moment sort of thing. It wasn't planned originally. Diego couldn't make it, so it's just me. So I'm just kind of just off the cuff and needed a guest. And I have my good friend and roommate Daniel Reif here with me. How you doing, Daniel, from the floor below me?
Well, good sir. Mm-hmm. We have lived long enough for you to know my last name is pronounced Reif.
Right. Oh, damn it. I'm sorry.
But I'm so happy to join you. This we've talked about it for a while. I really like watching your guys' podcasts. It's fun to watch. You guys are smart guys, creative guys. And this is my first podcast after being like a podcast listener for like 10 years. It's the first time I've had my voice recorded and pretended like I had something to say about anything. So
yeah, thanks for having me. Long time listener, first time caller.
Exactly.
Yeah, Daniel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm not too important, but I'm just kidding. But
no, you gotta tell people.
I know. I'm just kidding. I've lived in Los Angeles for a few years. I am primarily a grassroots organizer and activist, but also I am a graduate of Vancouver Film School, and I've been on and off AD, especially for music videos, or assistant director for those who don't know, especially for music videos and short films and web series. I love doing them, love being on set, and also love just pushing this world forward into a better place. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, you've been AD on some of the films since I worked on, so it's always good to have you. I love talking movies with you. We're always just like, we have some good takes, just shooting the shit, smoking the herb.
Yeah, yes, yeah, no, totally. And but before I sound like too much of just a fan, I've had a few hobby blogs, especially I had one about sports movies and a few other things too. So I happy to take some of those thoughts into the podcast sphere as well. But yeah.
Okay. So it's good to have you finally aboard, and yeah, we could talk the Northman, which we both saw Friday night. And, we loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I saw it again last night too. I saw it 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
It's an incredible experience. Do you want to talk about what it's about before we get into any thoughts on it, or?
Oh, we could just say a little bit. Just, could just do this off the cuff, or it's it's just it's a Viking movie. Well, besides a Viking movie, it's by Robert Eggers, and it's just this mythical quest of vengeance that this Viking is trying to avenge his father, and just kind of just his like odyssey into just vengeance, and it just consumes him. We see some great faces. Alexander Skarsgård, amazing. Anya Taylor-Joy, great. Nicole Kidman, Bjork for some reason, she's good.
Bjork has like one of the best scenes in that whole movie. It is your plot description really is the movie, but like it's a 2 hour and 15-minute epic of so much. I mean, it's so simple, yet it's also so fantastical in a way. Like, we're going to talk a little bit about how, tone is such an abstract thing to criticize or to try to talk about, but there is a compelling tone struck by, I think, Eggers in this movie and his cast and his crew, of taking you somewhere that is almost. They take you into the past, this rugged, muddy, super violent culture, history, time, and combine it with, of course, these timeless, almost untethered to reality sort of mythicism of the Valhalla of it, the spirituality, especially the indigenous spirituality that is all over this movie, yet somehow doesn't intrude on the actual real story at play, which is this guy dad gets he gets betrayed by his brother, curses his brother before he's beheaded. His son is able to escape this, unfortunate event where the betrayal happens. Years later, comes back and does get his vengeance, but in the middle of all of this is just so much of what really is in The Witch and The Lighthouse,
Mm-hmm.
Robert Eggers' first two movies, in a way that is more in your face, I think, in those movies.
Mm-hmm.
Especially The Lighthouse. But here it's so compelling to see all those elements sort of be almost wall decoration to this very, very visceral action film.
Yeah. No, because it really is. It's just like it really just takes you in from that first scene, the first frame, the narration and captions at the beginning. It reminded me of also like a video game almost, where it's like one giant cutscene, which is like such a roundabout thing of adding to this, because like cutscenes are essentially like movies, and now this is like kind of like the thing has come full circle, because you'll see like things where it's like, all right, like action, dialogue, and then like where a cutscene would be.
I mean, there's a real video. No, go ahead, please.
No, it really reminded me of that. I was just kind of I was just really intrigued. I don't know if that was intentional or just my brain sort of like it like clung to, but maybe it was. Who knows? I mean, you could look at something like El Topo and Jodorowsky, and that's kind of video gamey, even though video games never existed. But maybe it's just kind of the mythologizing of stories and everything. They're all kind of similar. But I don't know if you like Joseph Campbell. I'm not sure if that guy's aged well. Do you have any thought?
No, I did say I agree with you in a video game on how it felt, because it is shot very much, which also, again, like all these landscapes in this movie, yet I would imagine if I went back and saw it maybe a third time, I think majority of it is really like close-ups and medium shots.
Yeah.
And turning the camera onto action when it just happens. So he doesn't really give you a lot of lead up of action. You don't see horses coming from a distance too much. Like one day someone's just walking through a field, and all of a sudden arrows just start, going through people's necks out of nowhere. And the camera plays this really interesting way of really not able to catch up with the action, which I think is very much cool. A cool part about video games is that it puts you into that place where you actually technically don't know what's happening and where it's happening until you get your bearings, you start figuring things out. I just like the way the movie really plays with uncertainty. So much of the movie is about the bravery. It's about bravery too, on some level. It's got toxic masculinity. It's got very culturally relevant themes in this movie that are there, and you can find them if you want to find them. But it's also just kind of like about bravery, and like bravery takes so much uncertainty itself. And I just really like how you capture like how brave it takes to like just spend your life in battle, constantly just going from battle to battle.
Yeah, you're gonna die at some point. I guess that's why they're happy to die in Valhalla, right? They get some respite. I was gonna add the thing that you were talking about. We could touch on that, the toxic masculinity, where I think there was an interview where Robert Eggers was very hesitant about Vikings because he felt like a lot of it was appropriated by like white nationalists or supremacists or that sort of thing, which are like, terrible people. But it's interesting to see, I guess, him kind of reclaiming that, like these things that are co-opted, because it's like you look at symbols like, I don't know, the Punisher skull, and it's just so hard to like make a good Punisher story. And there's like, writers have like shown Punisher, he sees some police wearing the symbol on his car and he'll like rip it up and be like, it's like why would you guys like me as a thing? I'm a representation of why your system doesn't work. I'm the Punisher, that's what the symbol means. And it's like, you guys don't get it. And like kind of So the Vikings, I guess, like their culture was just kind of more honorable, and like you get that sense of it. I won't say they were great, but they're certainly not. They weren't that it got co-opted to. What do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, so I think another good word, I could just say masculinity, right?
Yeah.
But I think especially in the present, we're talking about masculinity in movies right now. We're talking about toxic masculinity. It's not really, but it's hard to kind of really separate. If there's a movie made 15, 20 years ago, it could just be a purely romantic film about Vikings with a bit of with some darker elements. But it is a 2022 film. But what I think, so toxic masculinity or masculinity itself and it the way it manifests is something I think Robert Eggers has been actually pretty clever about in his films thus far. He doesn't hit you over the head with it, but the father in The Witch, and of course, and then Robert Pattinson, especially in The Lighthouse, are these two very repressed, angry, tormented men who in some level are tormented by their own ego and their own sort of, I can control my own elements. I'm the one, I can do this, I can do that. And that story is really not that different on a very compelling level here in The Northman with Alexander Skarsgård's character. Because and how kind of Alexander Skarsgård character, and not just his character, but the culture that really Robert Eggers chooses to analyze or to kind of tell a story within, like there's few mythologies of ancient histories that are as masculine, at least in the literature, about Vikings, whether Vikings themselves, the extent to which they pillaged or the extent to which they conquered, the extent to which they were vicious. I think in this movie, you get actually kind of you get more of a quote unquote realistic, a more of a tempered look of their history. You have, it's different sides of the Norse colonies. You have different, one's a little bit more crazy. You have these these band of guys who just pillage. You also have these sort of off to the side village colonies too. It's a mix of a culture, but at least in our literature, there's few cultures as masculine as the Vikings, right? And I think it's such a really interesting way. I like that Robert Eggers, of course, in that interview, right, with Mary too, like I think I'm thinking a little bit more about, especially when I listened to the interview after the first time I saw it, then went into the second one with a little bit more of I'm gonna kind of look for maybe more of these masculine elements that they were alluding to. And it's very much there. But also, the first time you get so much of it too. Just, well, we're not going to spoil anything, but it does come to it.
No, I mean, the
film raises questions. The film raises questions at the end about how much this journey was really even worth it, and how much this journey was more. Is this journey about vengeance, or is it journey about legacy?
Yeah,
is this journey about not letting go in a way that's very, very much something of it's still in our lives today, but it's one thing about our past and our presence. One thing about what toxic masculinity does, it makes us very repressive. It makes us repress our emotions. It makes us, create fantasies in our head that will allow us therapy, that will allow us sort of, like,
almost like glorification of yourself, or kind of I think we use this term a lot, you and me. We're just like, you main character yourself, right?
Main character yourself, which comes from this like dominance, this individualistic, patriarchal capitalism, of like, I gotta get what I need to get for myself, my family, gotta avenge my father. Gotta, the three. There's a compelling monologue, or a compelling inner monologue that Skarsgård's character has, or Prince Hamlet, I should say, just for the sake of the movie, Prince Hamlet has, which is, "I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother. I will kill you, Fiona." And and that middle part, the save you, mother, is really where the film, where he realizes that middle part, that middle line, is quite when he finally sees his mother Nicole Kidman after years. He learns something. He gets a new perspective on his journey in the way that
we could do full spoilers at this point. I guess if anyone
sure.
that hasn't seen the movie could maybe pause it, go to the movies, and continue on. But I guess spoilers from here on out. I love the fact when he finally sees his mother, she like rejects him. She's like moved on, and it's kind of heartbreaking. I mean, that really messes him up. I guess too, in terms of it's a very interesting film, also on parenthood, kind of what sort of parents do to their kids as well. Because from that point on, there's like a shifting where it's like almost this like glorious sort of he's this hero, very much standard sort of Joseph Campbell, and then it becomes this like more nuanced, darker. Becomes this nuanced, darker version of himself, almost this darker quest, and like, when he kills Nicole Kidman, it's like, that's really dark, and he kills the kid too, and it's like it's not supposed to feel good about it, right?
Yeah.
It's just you feel just icky, or you just feel. I mean, uncomfortable, and I think it's not like a bad uncomfortable, and sort of like, I don't know, something like unpleasant or like something what's the word where you have something just shocking for the sake of shocking. It's really challenging the audience on this character that you're having this perspective on. Like, are you rooting for him? Are you still like rooting for him on his journey? It's like, what do you do when your main character sort of crosses these ethical lines? So that was it gets really interesting, that last 10-15 minutes. I was really in the edge of my seat.
The movie really doesn't work without it. Like the turn makes it turns it it turns into like a really prestige drama almost. Like it goes from like this like very visceral action movie. Not that action movies can't have very compelling dramatic elements to them, but it's quite the turn, and gives so much texture to like everything that comes before it. Like when you learn that, I mean, every turn where you thought he was, say, becoming much more clear about his journey was actually a turn where he was giving into more delusion. And that's just like that's just so cool when a film flips. Like that's, it's a property of a great film where like you thought you're watching something for an entire time, and you almost realize you're watching a whole other movie until it tells you this is the movie that you're actually watching. That's just so cool. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I love when movies are movies challenge you. Movies they're good movies, right? When movies are good movies. I think we said that the other day. We were just kind of like
I said something like, God, I like when movies are just good movies. What I mean? Because we just watch so much. We just watch so much uncritical movies. Not that movies are bad. Not that conventional movies are bad.
No,
and not even call this movie innovative. Like I don't think that's the point of this movie. I think the point of this movie to be, first of all, fucking bloody, muddy, visceral Viking movie. Where like we can talk about the images too.
Yeah, sure. Is there discourse on that? I don't know. He's just logged off.
I just
okay. That's good.
No, I man, all the abs and the muscles and the hair.
It's a very sexy movie. That's appreciative because I feel like if you watch something like Star Wars or I guess Marvel as of late. Well, yeah, Marvel especially now. There's just so asexual as well. Yeah, like Eternals had a sex scene, and people are like, what?
That made that movie so much more interesting. I'm sorry, I don't hate Eternals is not. I like Eternals fine. When they had that sex scene, I was like, okay,
cool. I see what
mature Marvel movie. I like it. Respect.
But it's like you kind of don't get there. It's like maybe it's like Disney sort of mandate. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a Disney mandate if they got away with that in Eternals. But it's just this these kind of high budget blockbusters is so asexual, and it's like that's weird because that's like if you look at stuff like Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, just off the top of my head, they're always like some sort of love story. There's some sort of like tension. Even if it's like kind of bad, like Luke and Leia, and with Han, it's a weird love triangle, but Lucas retconned it. Or even something like Raiders of the Lost Ark, him and Marion, incredibly, a lot of tension, a lot of interesting things there. But at least it's something. I just kind of feel weird. A lot of movies now have this asexualness, which is weird because it's like it's not even like groundbreaking. Yeah, have a sex scene. That's just like basic. That's what happens in like our basic like life. People are attracted to each other. That's
I mean, we like seeing it on screen. We like seeing violence on screen. We like seeing people eat food. I mean, literally, we're human beings. It's amazing. Yeah. Oh my God, we like seeing ourselves on screen. Yeah. It's funny. It is funny you brought it up because that's actually a really great time you brought it up because ironically, when I was walking out of the theater, I went to In-N-Out last night and I needed. Okay. I was off work, so I was by myself. So I love In-N-Out. I know. But the point being that I need a podcast listen while I wait for my Uber and everything. And I turned on. I don't know if you ever listened to. You must remember this. I think I told you about the podcast.
Yeah, I've listened to a few. Yeah,
from Film Historian Karina Longworth, and her new season just dropped. Not to plug other people's things on here.
No, you can.
Y'all should like and subscribe to Waffle Press podcast hosted by Diego and G.
Yeah. I don't have. I'm not threatening you with that to say that.
The link underneath. I don't know how that works, but so it's her new season is about the last 2 decades of the 20th century and a critical and I think also embracing and critical kind of look. I'm only very, very right at the beginning of the podcast, so I'll see how the season develops. But it's looking at sex in movies in the 80s and 90s, and how that's the first time we really started having less morality and less fear of having sex in movies, and in fact, it became the selling point of a lot of movies. That we
Basic Instinct,
Basic Instinct.
Cruel Intentions.
Yeah, Cruel Intentions. I mean, I'm just I'm not good off the top of my head movies, but you can name them all. The erotic thrillers, everything that started Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas.
Every Verhoeven movie,
every Verhoeven movie. Yeah. So
fucking weirdo.
and it's interesting, but the point of the podcast being is that we also then stopped in the aughts and in the 2010s, and we've really gone back into this pre 1975
like Hays Code,
we've gone back to the production code that essentially was supposed to end in the 70s, and it did for a while, and we're kind of going back to it. And I believe I'm with you. I think there is so much asexuality on screen these days. There's not a lot of adult movies out there these days. I mean, I try not to sound. I don't want to sound like basic or because there's great movies, always great movies out there. Like if you choose to go find them, they're out there. But it really is tough to it really is tough to find something that feels like it's not made for a 16-year-old. It really does at this level too. And even 16-year-olds don't mind a little sex on. I imagine don't mind a little sex on screen. So it's like, I don't know.
I just think just any sort of like romantic stuff, like romance. I don't know. It's not that it's forced or whatever, but it's like I just think of like Star Wars, the new trilogy, where it's like. It's so like asexual, and then like when it tries to, it like I guess backtracks to the directors. Like, sure, like I wouldn't be a fan of like Rey and Kylo Ren, but like there's a weird sexual tension between them and the Last Jedi, and then it becomes just like, and then they're like cousins or something, and I don't know what the fuck happened in Rise of Skywalker, but it's just they backtrack on it and kind of go with it, and it's just like. Yeah, and the big blockbusters, when they try to do that, it's just weird. It's just like if AIs or robots wrote romance,
Yeah, no. Or it's romance. It's always like it's romance out of a novel almost, or like a romance out of it's it's as if every movie is a YA romantic novel now, in a sense where it's like that's a very appropriate place not to talk about that side of love. But on the movies, in the movies, like, you know, love is very physical for adults. Love is very it is so physical. It's not just emotional. I mean, holding hands, cuddling, you know, these acts too. You know, when we talk about the asexuality of films, what's really sad is not just that we're not seeing people have sex. Like,
that's not what we're saying. It's just the expression of, like, you know, human emotion.
Expression of physical love and the intimacy of it. You know, we all are partners, and the intimacy of touch is so important and sexy. You know, even when you're not having sex, there's something very visceral about physical touch with someone you trust and have consent with. And it's really just annoying to see how much we've stepped off the gun on that. Luckily, we do have people. We do have people like Paul Verhoeven. I love Paul Verhoeven so much. And I'm so glad I'm just so glad that, like, in this conversation, he's also gotten, I think, sort of an online, maybe not resurgence, but I'm just glad he's still culturally, people still like him.
You know, and
he deserves.
He's a nice weirdo. You know, he's not like fucking. What's Paul Schrader, where it's like, ugh. It's like, bro, you need to log off. Not say anything.
I know Paul Schrader goes places.
It's you know.
Paul Schrader's got to leave it to the movies sometimes. You know, there's filmmakers need to leave it on screen. You know, the best filmmakers, like, I have so much respect for, like, David Lynch and Paul Verhoeven, because like, you know, they might talk a little game, talk a little shit about the industry sometimes, or about film goers, but mostly they keep it tight to the chest and leave it on screen. You know?
Exactly.
But that said, someone tagged me with a Vulture article that Paul Verhoeven once said, "Oh, fuck, never mind."
I appreciate, at least people, I don't know if, like, appreciate's a strong word, or maybe the right word to say, but I just, nowadays, it's like, I appreciate when people, like, keep it to themselves. Like, I was telling a friend, like, I love Steve Ditko. He's the co-creator of Spider-Man. You know, he had a great artist. He had some weird beliefs, apparently, that gets shown in his work on Atlas Shrugged, and some Ayn Randyism. And I'm like, but he never talked about it publicly. And I'm like, all right, I'll never ask. You'll never say. I'm okay with that. Like, I'll never hear about it.
Yeah, you and I have talked about, like, first of all, it's not right. You know, it's, you know, I mean, I don't like Ayn Rand.
She sucks. She sucks. Like, fuck her. Yeah.
Really sucks. I know, really bad. Very much an architect of our neoconservative world, down to a T, actually, very much. Anyways, but it's kind of crazy how much of she's an influencer on our current times. But
it's
you know,
weird.
but we talk about having a healthy relationship with creators, and we were losing that relationship, especially online.
It was also I want to bring up, it was also weird. I think, like, like Robert Eggers, people are like, he looks like this, or like, what is it? I don't know if you saw that on, thankfully not on Twitter. They tried to, like, people tried to, I don't know, not cancel or something, but maybe just insinuate some, like, things about him that are, like, untrue, like, about, he looks like this, you know, type of, like, person, like an alt-right, and it's like, he's not, like, he's literally, like, talking about, like, you know, toxic masculinity, like, you know, like,
he's just a guy.
He's just a guy.
I listened to it. It was fun. I listened to the WTF Mark Maron interview.
Oh, the one with him.
And it's just an interview between a guy and a guy. I mean, he's such a guy. That's the funny thing about director, I like, especially about that. I mean, I don't think a lot of people know, but directors aren't as interesting as their movies. Very much. Actors aren't often as interesting as the roles they play.
They're not that smart either.
They're I mean, they're really not. They're really very often also quite sheltered and quite quite elusive to the rest, to the real culture happening and the real world events happening, and quite uncritical very often. And so it's just just the way, so it's it's always kind of weird and gross to me just to over sort of just audience policing of these individual human beings are not as interesting as you're allowing them to be. You're not taking these people. The problem is we build too many people up that we always have to tear them down. And my big thing is like, stop building them up in the first place. Like, what are you guys doing?
Like, who cares? Yeah.
You know, film fans, film lovers, entertainment lovers, story lovers, please, dear God.
Yeah, like
you do not know these people.
Exactly.
Love their movies, love their novels, and
that's it.
And have a healthy understanding of their history. I want to know a little bit more about the people that I care about. But when I go and learn more about these people, I'm choosing to learn different side, not discovering that they were the worst people all along. There are this, horrible discoveries you make, and they do affect how you like. That's of course there. That's not. We're not gonna put that on the rug. Like, of course I can't watch a Bill Cosby special without thinking, of course I can't see the Miramax logo anymore without feeling cringe. You know what I mean? Like these things are for real. But we really do need to just kind of sit back and just enjoy the content or not enjoy it and move on. And don't let these people don't let people who also aren't running cities or states, like, you should care. Care about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, care about real things. Like, I didn't like Don't Look Up, but I'm not gonna like post on Twitter like, the way Adam McKay is like using editing, like I don't care. Like, okay, yeah, like maybe, like probably right, but it's like fucking cares.
I pretend the term pretentious. Can we cancel pretentious? Like, whatever everyone's idea of what pretentiousness is too out of whack. There is no common understanding of it anymore. It's just like, it's as meaningless as the word woke. It's as meaningless as quite a few different words. As a lefty activist, I find it quite as meaningless as the word progressive. I don't know what you mean. Like, what part? Like, progressive.
But yeah,
like, are you just like you Democrat, Dem socialist? Are you? I don't know what that means, but like it's we joke like the thing that Don't Look Up was a bad movie because it wasn't funny.
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't good.
So, and when a movie isn't funny and it's trying to be a satire, of course you're going to see all the elements of it are going to come to the surface, and you're going to be able to see how quote unquote pretentious. Yeah, what the ideas are because you weren't joking the whole time with the ideas. Like, so of course the ideas seem like they're just pretentious ideas. Yeah, but
Yeah. What was I also going to say? Like, I feel like the themes of this. Yeah, it's a good movie. The themes of this movie, because it's like I loved what's her name? I know her name. Anya Taylor-Joy. Like, she's like so phenomenal in this movie, and then. To going back to the themes, I love the scene where she's telling him like, "Yeah, just leave with me. Like, we could be happy." He's like, "Nope." Fucking throws himself off the boat. It's like, man, men would rather go on tales of vengeance instead of getting therapy. That's really the movie right there. But it's like, it's so telling. And then too, like, I love the little bit at the end where they're going to Valhalla and you see her and like visions of his family, and it's like. I love this character because he's so tragically faulty. He really could have just been happy just with her and like the family and whatever, but he chooses not to. Like, he chooses his death, and even the way his death or killing of the Dark Father, the weird Joseph Campbell stuff, he kills him, and it's not really a glorious moment because immediately after you see him get stabbed, and it was like, was it worth it?
Yeah, I don't think it. I think so. I think the point of the film is not to say it was worth it or not, and I think for me, it's not. That's not even a question.
Yeah,
like, I don't know if it was worth. I think it was worth the effort because he chose that this would be worth it.
Yeah.
Right. So on some level, I think he does die happy, but the tragedy, he does die at the gates of hell, which is, people, please. IMAX, whatever biggest theater you could see that scene on. It's one of the most brilliant. It's one of the most like I don't say one, but I'll give some time to start saying things like best or one of the most. But it's just
that's such a banger. Yeah, That's a banger.
Such a banger. It's such a banger, such a great scene. It's such an amazing scene visually. Such the choreography, the lighting, all of it is really incredible. The abs again, and the blood and the veins, and oh my god, the fire and smoke. But like it the tragedy is when he leaves her, when he jumps off that boat. Like ultimately, you know, I mean, there might be people who see this movie and are happy for him, which is that's interesting about the movie. You know, a good movie can like just be a hoorah for someone if they're not, you know, exactly attuned to maybe, or if their perspective is that this is good. Yeah. Unfortunately, maybe, right? Yeah. You know, and sorry, my phone was got chargey here in a bit, but I was losing my thoughts. You know, so one perspective could be it was a good thing, but there's for to me, right, at least it's really, this guy could have had happiness for his entire life, and he could have had Valhalla in a sense in his own life, and he still chose this like euphoria. Chose his euphoric vision that was supposed. He chose legacy. He chose legacy over his mother and kids. Yeah. And I think a part of me would like not to see her and the kids again, because I felt like it was almost. I guess it works to show you what he's seeing in the moment. I guess Valhalla is telling him like your mother and your kids are gonna. I remember seeing. I think that moment is kind of sad. You see the kids, and you're like, you should be there, bro. Like, what are you getting on this horse for and going to this light in the sky, dude? No. I want to grab the horse. Like, no, come kick it with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, she's attractive.
She's nice. Yes. She knows how to do witch stuff again. You know what I mean? Like, we should tell. Yeah,
I was just like, you know, it just goes to just toxic masculinity. I guess it goes back to that. You know, you're seeing it a lot in, you know, in film and I guess current events. Will Smith smacking Chris Rock, prime example right there. You know, he could be a little too topical, but basics, the most prominent example.
No, Gene, you're very cultured, so of course you're going to be topical.
Tie it into that, yeah.
No, I mean, I think we're getting to there too. I would say that obviously violence is a big part of this movie. It's an entertaining element, but it does play a really cool role of just, and you know, there's this. Well, I talked at the beginning of this about tone, and there's this. While this is also incredibly bleak at times, it's more serene. Yeah. You know, like it's actually more like it's a beautiful Icelandic landscape with just like human beings doing horrible things in this landscape. But like the camera, again, we talk about the camera at times being this uncertain thing, but also at times just capturing the beauty of the land and the fashion, right? And the hair, right? We talk, you know, and it's quite a beautiful movie, and the score is not exactly just the score. At times is you know, big drums, powerful screams, and it's just really quite this has this indigenous sound landscape that is really compelling as a score, but also at times it's just like streams and poetic and real kind of just, again, beauty comes from it, you know, the lighting and the sun is out, and it could beautiful. And so the violence, what's really cool about the violence here is that it interrupts all that so quickly at times. It just really, again, like we're telling you, like there's a guy just walking through the village and some dude just gets an arrow shot through his head out of nowhere, and then a war happens, you know, and that's really cool, and that's really cool about this film, that it doesn't prepare you sometimes for it. It could just been this sort of completely dark thing, but it's reminding you constantly that there's a life to be lived here. That there's a life to be lived here, that there's life to be lived here, that there's a world here, that Valhalla could be here, man. You know, Valhalla, and you know, there's a class element to all this. Valhalla is existed for those who are able to achieve it in human, you know, human life. You're able to conquer yourself to a sort of, you know, this sort of like ruling class liberation, you know, this feudalism, ruling class liberation. Or you also meet someone that you love and you get her pregnant and then no, you're going to jump off the boat into the water and go fight again. And it's just like, and so I think violence, as much as entertaining here, is also just, you know, Robbie Berger just does a good job making sure to also that, hey, this is an interrupting element, this is a disruptive element. This is not a good thing. Very entertaining, not a good thing.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Not to mention, before you continue, that the pillaging is really quite compelling. I mean, we're talking spoilers. I mean, they burn a house full of kids, like, and they show that, like, they hold on that shot when they burn this house full of kids after Skarsgård's band of pillagers takes over this one village, and like violence is quite an element in this film.
Yeah, I think so. Man, I guess just kind of wrapping up here.
Yeah,
it's just a good experience. It was a good, like, watching in a theater, reacting with people. Doesn't get better than that. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
You got double dose Nicole Kidman, right? At the AMC.
Oh, yeah. That's right, yeah.
You know, it's funny, too. I wish we did have more time. Nicole Kidman does play a good mom. I really love these mom roles Nicole Kidman played recent years in. It could be also Aquaman, Big Little Lies. I was thinking quite a Big Little Lies, which it's hard not to think of Big Little Lies because both Skarsgård, Kidman, also the joke has been made that Nicole Kidman plays his wife in Big Little Lies, but his mom in Northman. But like her mom roles have been. I guess I didn't see Aquaman actually, but her mom roles at least Big Little Lies and in this, she plays this coldness that is very real and cool. And you know, the idea of motherhood is very much romanticized in film, and very much, you know, like moms against the world, and I like this different kind of side of mom that Nicole Kidman kind of plays. Not that she plays a loving mom too. She loves in this film, and she's not an unloving mom in Big Little Lies. It's just you know, these are human beings too, man. And sometimes your mom betrays you.
Some you know, people are people. Sometimes they suck. It's a fact of life.
Well said. That's a good.
Was it? What's the Keith Stanfield thing where he's like, they asked him like, "What'd you think of the Will Smith slap?" He's like, you know, real stuff happens every day.
Real stuff happens every day. That was the greatest line. That was the best reaction.
But you were like, you know, he's like such a non-answer. That's like an answer.
I did say that. It is kind of, it's an answer though. It's a fun answer. I thought about the answer a little bit. I did think about the answer after I heard. At first I was like, okay, I think you should try and get out of the interview as soon as possible and not give any comment. But like, real stuff happens every day.
Yeah, it really does. In the Northman, it really shows that, you know?
Yeah. I hope we talked enough about the movie itself.
Yeah, I think we did. You know, if people listen to this podcast and are listening to this one, it's just more for the chorus where we go off tangents. We talk about the most randomness of stuff. There's other podcasts with Diego and Matt. They're just talking about 9/11 for some reason. I don't know why. It just seems to pop up. And I hope people don't make a thing of that. But anyway. Yeah, so,
you know, 9/11 seems to pop up so much.
It is a national tragedy, in the words of Norm Macdonald. It was messed up a whole generation of people. Won't get therapy. I don't know, but anyway, I guess the not really too much else to say. I mean, check out more Robert Eggers stuff. He seems like a genuine guy. He's just a guy. Just a guy.
Just a guy.
Just makes
Whatever.
movies. He makes
Watch his
movies.
movies.
He's not telling you how to live, how to. By live, I mean he's not putting on Twitter like if your audience doesn't laugh, it's like if you don't make your audience laugh in the movie, the audience is gonna laugh at your movie by a filmmaker that should remain nameless, who made The Wolf of Snow Hollow, and
the film whisperer. Right?
He's the Gary Vaynerchuk of film Twitter. That's what he wants to make himself.
Y'all DM GM about that later.
I got DM. He follows me on Twitter. I hope he doesn't say.
No.
No, he follows like 2,000 people. I doubt he really cares.
I know he's really into community. We should be into making his movies a little bit more. But
you didn't like The Wolf of Snow Hollow?
I've been seeing his movies. That's why I try to, but it's just his presence. His presence in the film Twitter world is.
More people need to log off. But anyway.
I actually did mute him. I muted him finally the other day. I was like, what am I doing? Why am I just letting this happen?
Yeah. JC.
Yeah.
Yes. Keep remaining nameless. But we've dropped enough hints to make you realize who we're talking about.
Oh, no.
Throwing some shade. But anyway, this was a good episode. It's good to finally have you on. I think we talked about this for a while. I hope you enjoyed your first time podcasting.
Yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, I was really nervous to pop my cherry, so to speak.
I think we all are.
But Gene, you made me feel real safe. And it was a tender experience. I felt heard.
That's good.
And I felt like the space, like the setting. So I appreciate it. I couldn't think of doing it with anyone else. So.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm glad I'm your first, but no, this is good, dude. I always appreciate your opinions and your insight. You're a good friend, and it's good to just hang out. We always just love hanging out, so it's cool to post and record this for posterity.
That is a two-way street, and well said.
Thank you. Daniel, where can people find you at Twitter online if you want to give that out?
Yeah. My Twitter is D-Reif. My last name is Reif, R-E-I-F-C-A, like as in California. So D-Reif C-A. I really should get a better Twitter handle.
That's all right.
But
I love your bio too. Roses.
Bread, roses, Blu-rays. Yeah, that says everything. If you want to know who I am, those 3 words basically will allude. I feel like they allude to everything that I am. So also, if you come across that bio, you come across the right person. So yeah, you can follow me. I'm not, my takes are a little few and far between these days. But yeah, man, I'd love to just follow you guys. And anyways, yeah, you can, if you care, you can follow me there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, G9892. You can follow The Waffle Press at The Waffle Press on Twitter, at The Waffle Press Podcast on Instagram. We're on Patreon, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We've been professionally unprofessional.